early. Um, Good morning and welcome. My name is Jeff Ganella. Despite the fact that Patty Hodson's picture has my name under it, I'm the real Jeff Ganella, and I'm a board member of CBN Montgomery County, and pleased to serve as this morning's host and MC. And I just want to thank everybody for taking a little bit of time this morning to join us. We're excited about our guest speaker, and appreciate the opportunity to do a little bit of networking, or at least connecting virtually. I know it's been a difficult and challenging time for everybody. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy, and getting through these difficult times. I know folks probably zoomed out, but we really didn't want to miss the opportunity to try to continue to get the community together, and certainly have the opportunity to continue to hear from community leaders like Martin, and talk to us a little bit about things that are happening around us. So we appreciate everybody's time and attention, and joining us, and we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some back and forth, a little bit of needs and leads if folks have some things they want to share. But I'm thrilled that Father Mike is with us this morning. As folks know, in addition to being the president of Don Bosco, he's also our spiritual advisor. And in that capacity, I've asked him if he would kick us off this morning with an opening prayer. Father Mike?
Morning, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning and to be part of this presentation. You know, obviously, as we've heard from Jeff, these are crazy and unprecedented times. And so in the midst of everything going on around us, let us bring all these concerns and cares and our own personal cares to the Lord as we gather together this morning. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord our God, we find ourselves in the midst of unprecedented and challenging times. A pandemic, a lot of social unrest due to racism and injustice, political divide that we find ourselves in. And in the midst of all of this, there's so much uncertainty, so much concern about where this will lead. As we come together this morning, we offer these all up to you, as well as all of our prayers and concerns, trusting and believing always that in the midst of all of this, you are with us, that you always walk with us, to watch over us, to guide us, and to protect us. Reassure us of your presence now and always in our lives. Watch over our family and our friends, and bless this gathering this morning. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Father. An excellent way to kick us off and get us started. So just quickly, I think most everybody on this call is familiar with and understands CBN, but I just like to remind everyone that CBN Montgomery County is an independent, not-for-profit organization of businesses and individuals that really work together to support Catholic education in Montgomery County. We welcome business professionals of all faiths to join us, and really in a mission-driven effort to provide opportunity and also to support those in Catholic education throughout the county and throughout the area. We're, as I said, mission-driven and able to provide critical support to students through scholarships and other grant and financial support, as well as help support the schools throughout the county. So, and we're only able to do that through the generous support of our members and our sponsors and others that continue to be a part of it. So we thank everybody for that. We're always open to new members and sponsors and anybody that wants to support in any way. And I just ask you to visit the website at cbnmc.com if you're interested or want to learn a little bit more or anything about the organization. So, and there's a number of the board members and others that past presidents and others on the line this morning. So we always like to recognize them and thank them for volunteer work in addition to the support they provide the organization. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce this morning's guest speaker. I think a number of us on the line know Martin and have known Martin for a number of years. And he's somebody who has almost 20 years of experience in banking and real estate. That includes not only traditional banking, but also underwriting experience. Prior to or immediately prior to founding Founders Bank, he spent a number of years as senior vice president, commercial real estate and lending at Revere Bank. And then prior to Revere, he was vice president for commercial real estate and loan officer at the Bank of Georgetown, where he was also responsible for the management of commercial real estate loan portfolio. So a very broad and diverse background on the banking side. Prior to the banking world, he was an associate director at a local mortgage banking firm. He earned his BA in political science from Lehigh, and is also a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned a Wharton Leadership Certificate in Executive Leadership in Banking. So not only tremendous work experience, but a strong academic record as well. He's also very active in the community, as you would expect, serving on a number of boards and volunteering his time. He currently serves as the chair of the Sibley Hospital's Young Professionals Board. So with that, it is our pleasure and honor to welcome Martin McCarthy, one of the founders and CEO of Founders Bank. And we're anxious to hear a little bit about how that is going in this challenging environment and what you see for the future. So Martin, welcome.
Jeff, I really appreciate that. And it's really an honor to be here, to be asked to do this. I wish we were all in person, of course, and back in the old haunts of around White Flint, back in the day, back when I started coming to CBN a long time ago. But this will do. This is how it is, and I thought I would just kind of give a little more color on my background and how my faith and Catholicism has kind of gotten me to, I think, kind of led me to where I am today, really, and then we can kind of get into what's going on in the marketplace. But I'm a proud fourth generation Washingtonian, currently raising a family of 3 children with my wife Renee, where I grew up in the Blessed Sacrament Parish of Chevy Chase. I graduated from Gonzaga in 1996, and just to kind of follow the four generations back, going from where my McCarthy name came from. My father graduated from Priory, now St. Anselm's, in 1964. His father graduated from McKinley Tech in 1915, and his father worked at Old Central High School as a custodian. The biggest takeaway I recall from my Catholic and Jesuit education was quite simply the importance of being a good, respectful person, and the power of community. This very basic set of beliefs shaped some of the most important business decisions I made, and certainly probably why I'm speaking here right now. I'd also recall, and I thought of this recently, the feeling of peace that I would inevitably feel, at least at some point during my times in church. Probably not there as much when I was growing up, a teenager and young adult, but more and more as I grew, those hours spent in church became more and more of a sanctuary for me, which is something I bet is familiar for those that are going to church today. Maybe something that is a familiar theme, and it's certainly something I'll touch on later. Early on, it was politics that I wanted to get into, and I think this was driven by a combination of living in D.C., attending a high school which was right in the shadow of the Capitol building, and through family, knowing a handful of successful lobbyists who I loved listening to their stories. They also happened to play a lot of golf and have a lot of time on their hands, and I thought they must be doing something right. But those were different times. Those were kind of late 90s ish. But in following that, I had the opportunity in 98 and 2000 to land 2 internships at the White House, one under Clinton and one under Bush. I then worked for a year as a paralegal in a large bipartisan lobbying firm downtown. It was there I got to see some of the real inner workings of the political machine. I really enjoyed the interplay of policy and business and found the game played by advocacy groups, politicians, staffers, and lobbyists really fascinating. But some of those basic lessons that stuck with me from my Catholic upbringings kind of came to light in a meaningful way there. I was there studying for the LSATs, considering my next move, and it became apparent to me, at least to me at that time, that making a living in the political world required a lot of interaction with a lot of senior folks that I saw as, let's just say, less than very moral and respectful. Jeff, that's why I apologized ahead of time that I was going to mention that. Obviously, there's a lot of, a huge percentage of honest, moral, good people in and around politics. Many I know well and love. But I had a concern about that. A lot of these folks that I kind of saw, I just kind of gave me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. And I also was not enjoying studying for the LSATs, frankly. And I ultimately did an about-face, and that's what led me to finance and banking. For a few years, as Jeff mentioned, I worked at BFSL Mortgage, where I was able to work with friends, family, customers of real estate agents that I made connections with. And there I started interacting with developers of condominiums and became more and more intrigued with commercial real estate. Following that interest, I landed a job as an analyst with commercial real estate brokerage firm Holiday Finoglio Fowler in 2005. I learned a lot about all types of commercial real estate there and how that sector was financed, who all the players in this region were, and I soaked up as much as I could. I moved from analyst to producer, couldn't wait to start closing deals on my own, but just a couple months after taking this new position, the financial crisis began. And I scratched and clawed as best I could for a couple of years, but being a green commercial real estate debt and equity broker without the benefit of being on a large team was really quite difficult at that time. And that was when we were expecting our first child and yada yada. It was that whole sob story. But I went, there was no money and I needed money. I had a good family friend at that time that I went to who was having success even throughout that last downturn. It was Mike Fitzgerald. I went to him and asked him about his perspective on what my next steps could be. And he suggested I come work for him as a lender at the Bank of Georgetown. Now, Mike was a terrific guy, someone I knew well for a long time, and I knew him as a religious family man with a reputation for integrity and strong business smarts. And so right off the bat, I thought, after talking to a few people, it was a great idea. I joined, knew immediately I had landed somewhere special, primarily enjoying the entrepreneurial field. That really excited me. There were about 35 employees when I landed there, all terrific people who enjoyed working hard together. Mike, who was the president and CEO, had a strict no-jerk policy. Everyone treated one another equally. All knew that every position in the bank was vitally important, and in order to grow successfully, it took a team that had each other's back without fail. The resulting sense of community there and required respect for everyone within that community really struck a chord with me and motivated me. I worked my tail off for the good of the group, and everybody else did. The other unique aspect of Bank of Georgetown's culture was the connection to the community at large. Every employee was really encouraged, if not pushed, to actively participate in organizations that gave back to or helped serve the community. The bank also would happily support all the employees' community services and be accommodative of the timing requirements that were associated with those commitments. It created a buzz in town that the bank really cared about the community, further fostered the culture, and it showed that what we were doing was more than just a job. While I was there, working alongside Gerard McLaughlin, John Higgins, and Domingo Rodriguez, who were the other organizers of Founders Bank, I soon became a top lender and realized that community banking was definitely my career path. And that's when I followed through and went to the American Bankers Association Stonier School of Banking through UPenn. All in all, I was at Bank of Georgetown for 7 years, and when they sold in 2016, we were about 120 employees and over $1 billion in assets. It was United Bank that acquired us, and I stayed on through the transition, but ultimately made a move to a smaller community bank again in 2017, where I thought I had the best chance to continue serving my customer base, which was approximately 100 local entrepreneurs and small business owners. All the while, the seed was beginning to take root in my mind, which was planted many years prior by my father, who knew community banking well and told me to watch and study the industry and see how cyclical it is, and think of people I could see myself forming a bank with in the future. It proved to be very good advice. During those latter years at Bank of Georgetown, I watched and noticed there's a very common theme in the community banking space. New or small banks grow and then they sell. Maybe they merge, go public along the way, but there's a very definable life cycle for community banks, especially within this very dynamic DC region. However, there was one big piece missing from that equation since I joined Bank of Georgetown in 2009. There was no new banks that had entered the market since before the recession. And in fact, we went over 10 years without a new community bank entering the market, and this has never happened before. Just for example, in the 10 years prior to the Great Recession, there were 27 that entered the banking market in that decade. The reason for the dearth of the startups post-crisis was the regulatory environment that was put in place by the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010, which was really, frankly, meant to keep banks from disrupting the economy in such a horrific fashion that they did in '08. But the regulations hit the largest banks just as hard as the kind of the small mom and pop banks in the small towns all throughout America. And a fascinating stat is right now the number of banks in the country is below 5,000. And that's the lowest it's been since the late 1800s. In the 80s, there were over 13,000 banks. So obviously, at least to me, this regulation went a tad too far and is hurting the community banks, which are so important to the small businesses in our country. Founders Bank was only the second bank to open in the region since 2009, opening our doors in April of this year. The community banking void that formed has really created a massive amount of frustration among their customers, and the goal of Founders Bank is to fill this void. With the benefit of surrounding ourselves with a very experienced team, many of which have worked together before, that's the vast majority of our team of 17, coupled with our ability to use today's technology, our understanding of the culture required to make a community bank operate at its peak potential, and three, the unique time that we're entering the marketplace makes for a very exciting prospect for us. But good God, what a time to open a bank. The stresses associated with that, the stress of home, work, virtual living, etc., in a pandemic is a unique challenge that we all are undoubtedly grappling with today. Just recently, I found myself sitting in the first pew at Blessed Sacrament watching my 8-year-old daughter Maeve receive her first communion from the great and the ageless Father De Silva. As I sat there, having not been in church for several months on account of COVID, I was truly moved by the power and cathartic nature of our religion and our faith. Stripping away the unique concerns of today, COVID, business, family, politics, and simply sitting in a house of God, focusing on the positive teachings of Catholicism, it truly felt like a layer of worry that was stripped from my body. Really quite a moving and powerful experience. And if you haven't already, try hard to safely get back into church. It's times like these, we need it now more than ever, and you really will feel it when you go. It's just nice to find a place, quiet, solitude, listening, and praying. In closing, we're a bank that is looking forward to really making a difference in our community, and we will compete to work hard with good, hardworking local business leaders in helping their businesses thrive. And I look forward to using the platform to give back to this great community. That's really one of our primary missions here, is to build stronger communities. And when we say that, there's the there's DC's banking community, there's the business community, but there's also CBN as a community, and all the different churches that we are associated with, the parishes we're associated with, et cetera. These are all communities. And everyone we work with, all of our employees, all those communities, we want to be there to help strengthen these communities. That's one of our primary missions. And we just want to be able to set a good example for all that work around us. So, I thought that's all I really had prepared to say, and I could be happy to talk about the local economy and what I see in banking, but I thought I would maybe open it up to questions and start a conversation that way.
Well, Martin, let me first just say thank you. Appreciate the comments, the thoughts, and everything that went into them. We're thrilled for you and Gerard and Jonathan and the entire team in terms of where you are, and it's nice to have you here and hear a little bit about the philosophy and the culture and the thinking behind Founders. There is time. I would love to open it up for some questions. If anybody has questions, they can hop off mute. They can raise their hand. They can get in the chat. Whatever option folks want. But I'd love to open it up if anyone's got questions.
Ellen Jane?
Ellen Jane?
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for arranging this program. It is so nice to hear someone say, yes, I made a decision because I didn't like the work environment. I thought there were better people to work with. And I think having made those decisions, that they've guided you, that's so good for me to hear, because we look today and say, what's this world coming to? Well, with people like you, and you're not the only one, thank God, but hearing what you have to say, I can say it's not that bad, and it is getting better. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Other questions? Quiet crew this morning.
So what is the state of our economy here? What can we look forward to?
Well, I would start by answering that by saying we are all very lucky and fortunate to be in certainly the most resilient economy in the United States. As crazy as our political machine is, it is the backbone of our economy, and it is ever growing, no matter what party is in charge. And it employs a ton of people. So we look at, and the other aspect to it that's unique is that we're not just an old sleepy defense and government town anymore. We're really diversifying with Amazon coming to town, for those in commercial real estate that have seen all of the data centers that have been planted and grown all throughout Northern Virginia. Amazon's not going to be the only giant tech company to come to town, and that's going to diversify us even greater. But big picture, we're going to feel some pain. One thing that we were just talking about yesterday is that there's a lot, we see, as much as there is resiliency, there's a ton of pain. I think our unemployment rate is doing better than just about all other major metropolitans, but it's still bad. And we have a lot of workers that are not going to be able to afford their housing. And there's been kind of a kick the can down the road, and there's been some rental abatements, and You're not allowed to kick people out if they're not paying. That's a DC statute right now, but that's going to come to an end. And so we're worried about what homelessness is going to look like in 2021. We think there's going to be a wave. And so there's areas to be hopeful for, but there's areas to be concerned. And a lot of it depends on what happens over the next 6-9 months. And how quickly we can get COVID under control, and then get ourselves back to work in earnest. But it's going to look different. But the general theme there is that DC is very, very resilient. We always do well, better than other major metropolitans in these type situations, albeit this is a unique one.
So, Martin, there's a good segue to a question from Joe Barton, fellow board member of CBN, who said, how do you size up our government's response to the pandemic, particularly when it comes to helping small and mid-sized businesses?
Well, it was, it seemed like they tried to throw the kitchen sink at it with the PPP and the Main Street lending and the CARES Act, everything. However, it could have been potentially a little bit more of a thoughtful approach. I know that there was mass hysteria starting to emerge, and you have to stem that. And you have to throw money at that and allow businesses who are basically going, humming along fine or just breaking even to go to zero. That can create some serious panic. But, I would say that the government did as well as they could have done given the circumstances. But, PPP was, it was kind of a necessary evil. It's very dirty and ugly insofar as it seems like from what we're understanding, it's about half of those that were able to get it, and getting it was a monster headache for a lot of people. But now it's like, what does the tail end of it look like? Will you actually have that money forgiven? And what are the rules? It's just, I think they did the best they could because it was billions and billions and billions of dollars and so complex and complicated, and to be able to roll that out in a matter of weeks it's next to impossible to get that done in a clean way. So I would say it was done as I don't know if a different administration would have handled it or been able to roll something out that was a little bit cleaner, just because of the magnitude and the time of it. I think it was as good as could be expected. But like is the case, especially with anything kind of government related, the devil's in the details, and those details are still foggy to a lot of business owners. And so it was needed, but it was messy.
So I think we probably have time for one more. Any other?
Jeff, this is John Gard. I have a question for Martin.
Absolutely. Go ahead, John.
Martin, wonderful talk. Most people, with a pandemic, starting a bank in the middle of with a pandemic, the diversity of, your CFO situation, you've been dealt all these just crazy difficult challenges through this process, right? And how have you been able to keep your teams positive and focused through this? Because as we all know, this lockdown has really caused people to hit depression at different times, alcoholism, right? And keeping your teams positive and focused, as we all know, is a core goal from a company in driving. If you talk a few minutes of just how you've been able to overcome those, because being able to, many banks and companies are going under during these times, and you're growing and exceeding, which is just an amazing feat. So I know, by the way, we do miss you in the Cullen building. So.
Well, I appreciate that, John, and that's a good question that we talk about almost every day, and it's we first, as far as and this is the kind of least important to your point, and then I'll talk about the culture that we've been able to maintain. But we got so lucky. We thread the needle. I mean, we had to raise today it's next to impossible to start a bank, even before COVID. You have to raise a lot of money. We had to raise almost 3 times the money that Bank of Georgetown did just 10 years ago. So the barriers to entry are huge. But we were able to do it. But we closed that the fundraising we had to do. That all closed in January and February of this year. If we were off by just a couple of months later, the bank may have not opened. So we are very grateful for the luck that we had there. And then we were able, you say some other banks are going, are struggling so much, but they were just, the economy was doing okay, was doing fine. And they were making loans like you have to do in order to run a bank. But now they all are, I can say basically all are going turtle in a shell mode because they have to protect their house, and they have a lot of loans now that are being significantly negatively impacted by COVID and the economy. But to your point, we've got a team of 17 people. What is critical is I refer to them a lot, and they're probably getting sick of it, as a SEAL team, and they're all very, very good at what they do. But more importantly, we have all worked together before. Not everybody worked at Bank of Georgetown, but a very good percentage of us did. So we know the culture there, and we know each other. If we haven't worked directly before, there's an employee that has worked with another employee before. So essentially, we all get it, and we all get the culture that we're trying to create. And so what we're trying to do is really push that this is more than just a job where you're earning a paycheck and we're a bank that's trying to make money. That, what I mentioned before about building stronger communities is really important. For example, right now we have an employee who every Sunday goes to the New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, and they have a Radcliffe room that is called, where they help clothe and give some essentials to the homeless of DC. And so what we're trying to do is every quarter find an organization or an entity that someone within the bank or someone on the board or one of our shareholders, but we're starting with employees first, supports, and then we get behind them and rally behind them, and as a team, we support them, and we support the missions that they support. And so it really creates a family feel. As cliche and cheesy as that sounds, it's critical, and you have to have each other's back. And even though we're not together in person very much at all, we try to have fun and do things like this on these kind of calls, and have happy hours, and we have funny little we just try to keep it light as much as possible, because it's really kind of we're working our tails off, because in a startup business, especially in this environment, we're all working too hard, but we're driven to do so. And so it's really creating a family atmosphere and having each other's back, and just underlining that again and again.
Well, Martin, thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for those questions. Appreciate that, and I know everybody learned something and is pleased to understand a little bit more about Founders Bank and the culture and the philosophy and the vision and some of the success that you guys are having in very difficult times. I'm going to turn this over to the president of CBN, Andrew Ryan, but I want to do just two quick things before doing that. One, I see Justin Silvers here, who is the head of CBN DC. I want to welcome him and just give a quick plug for their virtual gala, which is happening at the end of this month, October 28th. And then also put in a plug for our own gala. The CBN MC is having their annual gala virtually this year on Thursday, December 3rd. And we're going to be recognizing some community leaders that are supporters of Catholic education, and recognizing a number of the schools and others that are so active in our organization. And so I encourage everybody to put that date on their calendar. It'll be about 6:30 in the evening, and we promise it'll be a short program on Zoom, but we're looking forward to that and hope everybody can join us. So with that, let me turn it over to our president, Mr. Ryan.
Jeff, thank you so much. And Martin, thank you so much for being our speaker today. It was definitely very insightful to hear the work that you guys are doing for Founders Bank. I just wanted to quickly mention some of our members have reached out to me to say they are in hard times and they are looking for work. And we are going to be creating a needs and leads on our website. It is part of our meeting, even though we're meeting virtually. We are a community and a networking group for CBN. So if there's anything we can do to help you out, or if you have an opportunity, please let us know. So that way we can help each other as a community and as a family. And as Martin said, to have each other's backs. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining us. And as Jeff said, please circle the date, December 3rd on your calendars for our virtual gala.
Thanks, Andrew. And again, unless anybody has anything for the final word, we'll let folks get back to their Friday. And for us lobbyists, we're going to go play golf, I think. So it's a gorgeous day out there. So I hope everyone else is going to get a chance to enjoy the day. But anyone have anything else for the good of the order? All right. Well, again, thank you all very much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And Martin, again, thank you for taking the time. Gerard, Jonathan, good luck with everything. And we know that if there's anything we can do, don't hesitate to ask. But we appreciate you being here.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.